Well, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, come on. Good afternoon. Come on, I know you guys are awake. Got a lot to do here. I've got a few questions before we start, and if you can answer by way of applause, I want to get a feel for who's in the audience here. And if you by do it by way of applause, you don't have to keep turning around. How many of you, by way of applause, are on the business side of your organization? Okay. And how many, you can answer the same question more than once. How many are in IT or technology? Okay. And lastly, how many are you healthcare providers? Okay. Be the buyers. Okay. A couple more questions. How many of you involved in mobile at your organization personally, by way of applause? All right. How many have a mobile strategy? How many have a mobile strategy that you're really proud of? Okay, this is good. And lastly, how many of you wish mobile was never invented? Okay, I'll get an honest group. Okay, we've got a lot to do today. And I'm Chuck Martin, and I'm among other things, I'm the author of The Third Screen, Marketing to Your Customers in a World Gone Mobile, which is selling very well around the world, I'm happy to say. And Samsung and T-Mobile have purchased 25 copies of this for you, not for me, for you. So anyone who goes to the booth of the first 25 people, to their booth after this event, don't run out right now, because they're not going to do it right now, till after. Bring it after the event, and they will happily give you a copy, and I signed them all last night. So that's courtesy of T-Mobile and Samsung. I'm also the brand manager of the Mobile Insider Summit, and that's a summit that we do 2 times a year, 3 days in Lake Tahoe and 3 days in Key Largo, where we have the top mobile people in the world and the top brands in terms of mobile budgets in the world. I'm a weekly columnist for Media Post Communications. I've got a column called The Third Screen, coincidentally named after my book. I'm also very heavily involved in the online media marketing advertising, what's called the OMA Mobile Conference. I did the programming for the last one at the Marriott Marquis. So I live in the mobile world. That's where I live. It's kind of an insane place to be, but everything I do is totally mobile. I spend a lot of time talking to organizations literally around the world about where mobile fits in context of what they're doing. And what I'd like to tell you is that if you feel you are behind, if you're under-resourced, which I know you're under-resourced, you don't have enough budget to do this, you're very much the same issues I'm seeing in every single industry across the board. So it's not like healthcare is over here and retail is over here. They're both extremely challenged with an unbelievable amount of opportunity and upside. My role today is to give you, I'm going to give you a quick overview of sort of the mobile marketplace, where we stand in the grand scheme of mobile, and then I'm going to be moderating a panel, which I've met all the panels, I've interviewed all the panel members, and you're going to see a real-life healthcare case study that got deployed in the last year with extreme success and with a lot of innovation as well. So, and we'll have the people from that as well as the people from T-Mobile and Samsung who actually deployed it with the people from the organization who actually did it and did the work and did the strategy and the planning. So we're going to hopefully go through a lot of issues in terms of what you do for mobile strategy, the tactics, how you actually deploy, and how you, heaven forbid, have a return on your investment. Which is, how many have a problem with ROI in mobile? Just clap. Anybody? Nobody has a problem with ROI in mobile. Okay, you're in the wrong place, I'm sure. Anyway, okay, by way of background, let me tell you about the three screens. By way of, this is context and behavioral. It's really not about technology. It's really about the behavior of everybody in the world that's changing. The first screen, of course, was TV. And of TVs, there are 2 billion TVs around the world right now. The second screen was the PC, and PCs, there are 1 billion. Now, billion used to sound like a lot, and then in the U.S., I know a lot of you aren't from the U.S., but in the U.S. we have this new word, trillions. It's a debt thing, and so now we talk about trillions, and billions don't seem large anymore. But does anybody here have a billion of anything? So a billion is a lot, okay? So we have a billion PCs worldwide right now. Mobile phones, there are 5 billion mobile phones right now. There are more than 6 billion mobile connections worldwide. In 107 countries, the number of mobile phone subscriptions exceeds the entire population of the entire country, including babies in all age groups. So mobile is a big phenomenon. I would suggest to you, and I've written 10, 11 books now. I chronicled a lot of the early days of the net. I wrote Net Future, Digital State, and multiple books in that arena. So I knew all the mobile startups. And let me suggest to you that mobile is a bigger phenomenon than was the commercial web. The reason is when the web started, we had to add a person because nobody was on the net. It was one person at a time, so it was an incremental growth. So we added one, we added another one, so it was a very long process over a period of years. With mobile, the network is already in place worldwide. So now we simply plug in something. That's why you'll see an innovation that's very fast and it's rapidly adopted because the network is already in place. And that's really unique for any time in history. The number of mobile phones has doubled over the last 5 years. So it's really a hockey stick straight up growth. That's why there's so much happening. It seems like it's all of a sudden so much is happening right now. It didn't happen just now. It's really been years of infrastructure planning, years of network planning and putting together, and now we're simply plugging things in, and we can take these mobile devices and do them for totally different things, especially in healthcare. If you look at the context of mobile in terms of where it really was and where it came from, it wasn't that long ago. It's only 20 years ago that we've been texting. And if I told you before that when you were growing up, I'd say, you know, when you get older, you're going to learn to have to type with your thumbs. I mean, think about that. We type with our thumbs, the least effective digits on our fingers. We type with our thumbs, and we don't give it a thought now. It's very much like Walmart. They didn't retrain you to put the bags in the cart. They simply created carousels at the end, and the bag came over to you and said, gee, maybe I'm supposed to put this in the cart. And that's what we did. So all of our behaviors have changed. So we self-bag, we self-checkout, we self-check-in. It's now sort of expected. And that behavior is really going everywhere. If you look at photos on phones, the first one was in Japan in the year 2000. So we haven't been taking photos that long. And now, I mean, the idea of having a camera and a phone, I mean, what a weird idea. I mean, you see photographers around here, like one, and it's a digital camera, of course, but we're all taking pictures with our phone and sending them. Texting, last year there was 7 trillion text messages sent worldwide. Teens, who here by way of applause has a teenage son or daughter? So you know that the average teen texts 3,200 texts a month. And now you're saying, I actually got somebody in trouble because they went home and they told their daughter that she was outside of the norm because she was doing many more thousands than 3 a month. So she got mad at me. Anyway, so don't quote me on that when you go back to your children and say, how many texts do you send a month? But I'm sure it's in the thousands range. That's the way that communication is happening. That generation is coming into the workforce. That generation is going to be working for you. They're not going to be working for somebody else. That generation and the mobile generation, they are dealing with healthcare. They aren't different people. They're the same people. And that's the whole behavioral thing that's changing here in mobile. What we need to do is look at the behavior of the consumer and the new expectations of consumers in terms of what we as an industry provide to that marketplace. And that's the new phenomenon here. It's not about I've got a new widget here that does this. It's really what is the ultimate solution that fits with the behavior that the consumer is going to. If you look at location-based is going to be an incredible feature of this whole thing. We started with the first 2 screens. You had the tethered consumer. The consumer was tethered to the physical device. They had to be where the device was to use the TV or the PC. With a mobile device, we have the untethered consumer. And we have the untethered B2B workforce as well. They don't have to be physically at a location. They don't have to be doing something on paper. They can be doing things remotely in terms of input, receiving information, pull, push, all that sort of thing. That's happening in every industry across the board. And again, it's not unique. It's not that healthcare is going to do this. I mean, you have some different issues, you know, HIPAA and so forth, but the financial services has different issues too. And it's the same thing for every industry, retail, manufacturing, and so forth. If you look at technologies that we are now using, who here by way of applause uses Viber? Anybody? No? Nobody uses Viber? Does anybody here make international calls? If you make an international call and you use Viber, it's 0 cents. It's absolutely free 100%. I was in Latin America a few weeks ago and I asked the same audience. Everybody in the audience uses Viber because they're calling here, because the cost structure is different for mobile, and they're calling through the app. And that's a new phenomenon. Who here by way of applause uses Gas Buddy? Oh, phew, okay, good. We do have a mobile crowd here. So with Gas Buddy, it locates where the nearest gas is based on price to you, so you find your lowest price gas. Who here uses Shop Savvy? By way of applause. Anybody? Shop Savvy is a phenomenal app where you basically, you price compare, and you'll find something. You'll be at Best Buy. Best Buy loves this app. I'm just kidding. You snap the price tag, and it says Nordstrom has it at 10% cheaper. Do you want to buy it? One click, Nordstrom ships it to your house for free. It's called Shop Savvy. And most of the technologies, the scanning technology, they're using the Shop Savvy technology, although that's not really generally public, but that's the technology they're all using. Amazon and so forth, they're using Shop Savvy's tech. 24% of consumers visited a mobile device over this Black Friday. Over Black Friday, 21 million mobile page views were done. 21 million on a mobile phone. This is not healthcare, but it's the same thing. It's behavioral transformation, and that's what we're going to go through, and that's what we're going to talk to today. If you look at healthcare, more than half of smartphone owners use their device to get healthcare information. 1 in 5 smartphone owners have at least one health app on their phone, so the consumers get it. They are there. And the consumer marketplace is really where you're going to be playing ultimately. Even though there's a B2B play, it's still the ultimate healthcare consumer at the very end. So let's talk about where we are in terms of what to do for better health for the patient and better health for your business. You can't do one without the other. So you have a great business model, but it doesn't help the patient. This is not a winning proposition. You have something that's great for healthcare, but you're losing money on it. That's not a great proposition either. So what we're really looking to do is tie these two things together, and they go hand in hand. This is a new phenomenon in the enterprise in terms of the integration of the components inside your organization, in terms of IT, finance, marketing, healthcare. I mean, all this has to be glued together, and it's much more complex than anything else in the past, because there are a lot of moving parts. You can't just have, and anyone in IT knows this, IT can't simply deploy something right now. It's not that simple. It's much more complex, and they need much more buy-in from different places around the organization. So some of the insights in terms of where we're looking at, if you look at home health care, hospice, medical practices, education, and hospitals, these are key areas that we're going to talk about in the panel today. And every one of these is a very big deal by itself. Not just integrated, but by themselves are a very, very big deal. And it really can't be just one or the other. You need to be looking at everything across the board. So what are the challenges and really insights for the next year coming up? Implementation. Implementation is so difficult. How many here have implemented something in mobile? Just applause? So how many was it easy? Yeah, you get it. It's not a simple thing. And it might be the CEO says, just do it. Well, that's good if you're Nike, but it's really not good if you're in healthcare and IT. You can't just do it. There's really much more to it than that. HIPAA compliant. I mean, my goodness, the stuff that you guys have to do in terms of keeping things private, keeping lids, keeping circles and boxes around things, this is not a simple thing. And no one of these things, by the way, is going to solve the problem. You need to deal with all of these things, which our panel is going to address today. Electronic records maintenance, by 2014, 2015, everybody's got to be there. Who here is ahead in terms of electronic medical mandate? So, applause. Is anybody there? Well, you're going to hear the panel is, so they're not clapping, but they'll be up here talking about it. But you'll hear this group that actually they did that sort of way back when, as the phase one before they got to the serious mobile stuff. But it's kind of interesting. Cell coverage, cell coverage. You need to make sure that this stuff works. I mean, you can't get cell coverage inside Walmart. I mean, think about this. You go down some aisle, and all of a sudden you can't even make a phone call. I mean, that's brilliant retailing. Same thing with Best Buy, same thing with Target. They want to block you out so you can't use your phone. I mean, heaven forbid you should get competitive information, my goodness. But that's going to change, because what's happening is people are going to basically go out of business that don't really get this. And the companies, especially retail, I just finished a book on retail, so I know a lot of these retailers. A lot of them they're really looking at how to transform what they do, because the consumer is driving this. Integrated electronic patient software. Who has integrated electronic patient software now? Just clap. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, so we've got some hope here. So we're going to talk about gluing all this stuff together. At least if you have one of these components done, this is a really good thing. It's like, okay, I've got that one done. And you know, when I say it's done, it's really not done. It's really kind of going. It's never really finished. It's really that you've got it started. Changing reimbursement models. I mean, reimbursement. Has anyone seen reimbursement get easier these days in healthcare? Don't think so. And it's getting more complex. What that does is it tightens the margins. And that gets back to the business case in this for what's the ROI? Where do you deal with the margins in terms of keeping them steady? The care providers want a choice in device. You can't, no longer can you say, how many here by way of applause have a BlackBerry? Come on, you can admit it, it's okay. Who doesn't? See, the difference is pride. But BlackBerry actually has a new BlackBerry coming out, which is solid. And the keyboard is really good. And what you know is the BlackBerry is extremely secure because it's encrypted data. But you also, it was probably issued to you by your company, right? I mean, BlackBerry people, yeah, I have to use the BlackBerry. And, you know, my kids don't like it, but I come home with it and they're embarrassed. I can't walk with them because I have a BlackBerry. But it does still work, and it's got a really good keyboard, but it's totally secure, which is why it could be deployed. And early on, BlackBerry was the pioneer, and that's when an IT department say we're going to give these devices out. And now, in IT, the people that are coming to you saying, I want a choice in device. Well, that's going to happen in this whole B2B world as well. People want choices in device. Is it a tablet? Is it a smartphone? Is it a whatever? And it's got to be all integrated and seamless across the entire platform. And then ultimately, quality assurance. How do you make sure that this stuff is still the best that you can deliver from a healthcare standpoint so that your consumer, your client, your patient still is getting the best care that you can possibly want to give? Because nobody in this industry wants to say, okay, how can we do worse care and save money? I mean, that's really not where you start. You really start with what is the quality control? How do I maintain that? And you know in your organizations there's somebody watching that all the time, which is very, very good. And that's the way it should be. If you look at the ecosystem of mobile, this is not a simple thing. If you look at all of the moving parts on the outside, you've got everything from social networks. Who here, by the way, has been tweeting this conference? Anybody? Wave of applause. I'm Chuck Martin. I'm just at Chuck Martin. If you want to follow me, I'll follow you back. But I have been tweeting a little bit for this. If you look at the different parts, you've got public safety, information, consumer, medical, hospital infrastructure operations, and these are sort of the bigger issues. And then ultimately you get back to that whole issue of the two-pronged approach. Better health for the patient and better health for your business. Again, it can't be one thing. It has to be both sides of the equation. And it's not really a conflict in an organization if you're working together to do this. It's really a complement. And one side is watching one part, one's watching the other part. Again, you'll hear about this in the panel as we go through a lot of detail in terms of what it is really going to do. It must work for everyone, the care provider, the business sponsor, the patient, and the IT and program manager. It can't work for just one of these. And there were things in the past that we could do where it would just be it had to be done by just IT and information systems because it was compliant and financial services. We can't do that anymore, especially in healthcare. It's much more integral. I'm going to show you now a video that was created by a production company, but it's of the company that we're going to profile today. We're going to do the case study, and right after this video, I'm going to introduce the panelists, and we'll do a discussion. During this conversation on the panel, if anybody wants to send in a question, I'll take them by text message. I mean, this is a mobile conference, and my phone number was up there, and that is my actual phone number. So please throw it away after, because it really is my phone number. It's one of my phone numbers, and I'll give you that number again if you want to text a question. So if you don't want to stand up, and I will integrate the questions in real time as I'm asking the panelists questions. So if you have something at that moment, just send me a text, and I'll integrate your question with the questions that we're asking. So my phone number is 603. Just kidding. 603-531-7949. But feel free to text me for any questions you have. The panel also will stay after the event. We'll be ending at 5:30 sharp, but the panelists will stay if you have private questions you want to ask. And we will have a Q&A. We have microphones that you can do analog questions if you want as well. So I'll play this video, and you'll see it. It's just a short 2 to 3 minute video, which will give you a highlight of what we're going to be talking about.
Bayada Home Healthcare is a multi-specialty provider of home health services. We deliver those services through about 250 branch locations in 23 states. Each and every week we have about 15,000 employees that provide services to 25,000 clients across the country.
We help clients from infants all the way through elderly hospice and all facets of care to help clients in the place that they want to be taken care of in their home. The Beata Way is our company's mission, and it clearly states what we need to do and how we're going to do it.
It's the most important part of our culture.
We want to serve millions of people worldwide. We need to be the world's most trusted team of home healthcare professionals. We also want to create a lasting legacy.
In some way, shape, or form, every one of us connects with the work.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm the nurse at Beata. How you doing today? I got into nursing because I have a passion for helping others. It's really rewarding to help someone in some of their most vulnerable times, and there's nothing more vulnerable than not understanding what's happening to your own body. Why don't you have a seat in the chair for me?
You are invited into someone's home, and it's a great opportunity for us to really make an impact on our clients' lives and their families.
I'm going to listen to your lungs, okay?
Sure.
All right. Your heartbeat's a little fast.
I told you because you're here.
Okay.
I was in a severe car accident June 18th of 1990. But I don't believe in limitations. The only limitation is the one that you put on yourself.
Can I ask you a couple questions, Lee?
Sure.
Okay. I use the tablet for everything. It has all my patient information. It's where I have all my critical medication information. It's where I get my navigation to the patient's house, and I would literally be lost without that device all day.
We experimented with laptops, we've experimented with large tablets, with the Samsung. It was a natural fit.
It enables the clinician to practice and supports them without getting in their way.
How's your appetite then? When I'm working with patients, I want them to notice that I'm focusing on them. It's small enough that I can keep it away. I don't have to have it right in front of me. I can glance over to it if I need information. It's perfect size.
A constant focus in home health care is reducing the incidence of rehospitalization, providing clinicians with the information that they need to enable them to focus on the client's needs so that we avert that rehospitalization event is critical. Without technology and without the ability to capture clinical information at the point of care in the client's home, that wouldn't be possible.
Once I complete a visit, I can immediately give the office feedback. I can sync, and as soon as that sync is completed, the office gets the information on the visit.
We have 3,000 clinicians out in the field in clients' homes today making multiple visits. By the end of today, all of that information can be analyzed by any one of us in the back office environment. And that ultimately will guide the care that we're providing tomorrow.
T-Mobile and Samsung have been great partners because they realized from the beginning that we didn't have all the answers.
They offer a service called the no-touch, hassle-free implementation, which allowed us to deploy at a steady cadence and have T-Mobile configure our over 2,500 devices with our software. Never missed a rollout date.
I work in very rural areas throughout the county, so I need to be able to have instant connection at all times. I haven't had any problems with the network no matter where I've been at.
The range of applications, the range of services that are available when you bring a smartphone and a tablet and data connectivity into a client's home creates endless opportunities.
It's really providing safer patient quality care and it's making my job easier. I think all around they're great products, and I think they should be used more often.
So the obvious question is, what happened with that? How successful was it? Well, if you look at the impacts, they ended up with reduced unnecessary hospitalizations, which is really key of cutting down rehospitalization. Greater communication between Beata's 3,000 plus mobile workforce. They had about 2,900 plus, actually I think it was probably more than 3,000 by now, Samsung tablets deployed, 71 locations in 20 states. All branches were rolled out on time, and I know the IT people are saying, on time, wow. On time is a hard thing to do. They were done on time and under budget, and the finance people are saying, I want that, under budget, anything under budget. And T-Mobile met Beata's overall coverage needs in terms of where they were, and basically it enhanced the quality of the care delivered. So back to that whole issue of quality control, and do you really achieve what you're trying to achieve with your patient? So it was very successful. I'd now like to introduce the panel and bring them up, and they'll come up one at a time as I introduce them. Wesley Smith is National Sales Director for Healthcare at Samsung Mobile, where he is responsible for developing and deploying technology solutions by working with C-level executives throughout the U.S. enterprise healthcare markets. Wes also is involved in Samsung's national healthcare go-to-market strategy. Ashley Wharton is Director of Clinical Strategy for the Home Healthcare Practice at Bayada Home Healthcare, where he focuses on the intersection of clinical, technology, and operations. The home healthcare practice is a $200 million business unit within Bayada Home Healthcare and represents more than 70 branch locations with more than 3,000 employees in 20 states. Ashley also is a registered nurse and has a master's degree in information systems. Next is Eric Thule, Division Director, Home Health Practice at Bayada Home Healthcare, where he oversees the operating practice support function. He is responsible for providing ongoing governance, support, and continuing process improvement, and assisting offices to optimize the use of standard operating procedures along with role-based training. Eric was the champion and leader of the transition to a full electronic medical record system to more than 2,500 point-of-care technology devices for field clinicians. Andrew Gentile is Director, Home Health Operating Policy at Bayada Home Healthcare, where he leads a team responsible for continuously defining and refining the home health operating model. Andrew also led the implementation team that deployed the new electronic medical record system to more than 70 branch locations within a 12-month period. And last is David Lampkin, Vice President, Enterprise Business Sales at T-Mobile USA, where he oversees the enterprise business segment and is responsible for more than $250 million in annual sales. David's business customers include half of the Fortune 500 companies across all sectors, including healthcare, technology, retail, food services, automobile, and consumer goods. David has more than 20 years of sales leadership experience and has been with T-Mobile for more than 10 years. Please join me in welcoming the panel. I'd like to start with Eric, because you were obviously involved in the business aspect of this. Can you tell people, in case everyone isn't totally familiar with Bayada here, because not everyone's from that given market, can you talk a little bit about Bayada and what you call the Bayada way?
Sure. Bayada is a home health care company. As we mentioned, we help clients from infants all the way through elderly hospice, keeping people at home safe and independent. So for us, the Bayada way is the philosophy of how we run our business. It's more of a philosophy. It's not your typical mission statement you put on the wall, but it's a philosophy. And basically it states our values of doing everything with compassion, excellence, and reliability. Those are our three core values. And it tells us what we need to do as a company, which is grow. We want to be worldwide, serve millions of people. We want to be the highest quality provider of home health care. And we want to create a lasting legacy, so we want to be around here in 100 years when the environment's going to be significantly different than it is right now. So that was why we needed to do what we did with this rollout.
So how do you tie the Bayada way into this? What was the philosophical thinking?
So when you think about it, growth, with 71 different practices across 20 plus states, the way to replicate process is a challenge. So an EMR and mobile solutions allowed us to have a consistency, deliver our services consistently to enable us to grow and be scalable. Secondly, quality, as Ashley will kind of go into, but we want to be higher quality, deliver higher quality care. By capturing information at the point of care, we were able to respond and deliver care much more appropriate to the client's needs on the next day rather than waiting to process the paper 45 days later. Thirdly, sustainability. Reimbursement challenges. Over the course of the last 3 years and the next 2 years, Medicare will cut our revenues by 10%. So imagine 10% of your top line gone. It was a kind of a force of necessity to be able to have efficiencies and to optimize our reimbursement model in a very declining economic reimbursement framework. So it was kind of a call to action as well. So once again, growth, quality, and sustainability. We want to be here in 100 years.
We all do.
Actually have a margin.
Andrew, can you talk about the IT role? We have a lot of people in IT here. At the beginning of this process, how did IT look at this?
I mean, you know, in IT, we definitely adhere to the same values. So compassion, excellence, and reliability. We try to make all decisions based off of that. And I know that, you know, many times in IT, you can put up barriers, and we try to make sure that we were knocking them down, not putting them up. So to Eric's point, I think we knew reimbursement cuts were coming, and we had to act. So, we basically figured out that it was going to come down to, we had three big decisions to make as we were going to move into the EMR world. First of all was, what was our EMR vendor going to be? So we met with, numerous vendors across the country, and we ended with what we felt like was best in breed for home care, and that's a company called Home Care Home Base. So we selected them as our EMR. The next move we had to make was select our carrier. And to be totally honest, we have a large mobile workforce, and we were currently using a different carrier for a lot of our cell coverage. And we met with all the carriers, and ultimately, as you'll hear throughout the day, is we ended up choosing T-Mobile. We felt like they were very flexible, and they were going to be a great partner throughout this. And then lastly, we also had to choose the actual device. And Samsung has a great reputation. We tried a lot of different devices. And we felt from an IT standpoint, and really it all comes down to the end user and the experience that they're going to have. And we felt like the Samsung 7-inch tablet, the durability and the usability was just perfect, a perfect fit.
Ashley, speaking of the end user, I'm sure you had a lot of input early on in this in terms of your field experience. First, I want to know about your double background.
That's what out of nowhere.
We need the mic.
That came out of nowhere. Double background, yeah. So I was actually a clinician way back when. Actually started in London. And
That's where most people in IT start.
in London.
No, just kidding.
Yeah. Because I wanted to be altruistic and I had this need to give, and I envisioned myself with Médecins Sans Frontières, traveling around the world. Stopped by in America, bought the American dream, mortgage, family, child. Technology was the next natural transition for me.
Interesting. It is a unique background. You have to. I mean, anyone here in IT have a clinical background? Okay. Can you talk about what in this early process? When Eric was talking about sort of the thought process, the Bayada way, where was your role? You're representing the end user, basically.
Definitely having that clinical background, also understanding the technology, what was available, having gone through this several times in a previous kind of life. The definite focus was on what is the experience going to be for the clinician in the field. Without successfully engaging the clinician in the field, be they a nurse, a therapist, or a physician, a home health aide, the project would be doomed to failure. So the usability has to be extremely high. As Andrew mentioned, the 7-inch tab is such a great form factor. I've worked with many solutions on many platforms. Adoption has always been extremely high. I would say that this, as an implementation, as implementations go, this implementation was the smoothest and the easiest I've experienced, with the least amount of pushback from the field clinicians. Simply because of the form factor and the usability.
So was it education that worked with them? Or you let them try different things? What was it?
In theory, I guess a good project should let people give a lot of feedback. It was actually a fairly rapid implementation, so it was fairly prescriptive, so it probably broke those rules. Again, I think it comes down to the software that was selected, as Andrew mentioned, was best of breed. It's on a tablet form factor that met the needs of the clinicians. It wasn't a barrier to providing care. You didn't have to get a laptop out and put it down on the desk and open it up and create that psychological barrier, plug it in because it's only got a 2-hour battery life. This thing, it can go in a pocket, 7 inches, it's great, it's good enough to read. We have an aging workforce in terms of clinicians, as everyone's probably aware. So this device kind of met every need. It eliminated the barrier. It truly is a paper replacement. There's very little learning curve on this. I mean, most people, or anyone with children in the room probably know that their 3 or 4-year-old picks up a touch device and just flicks through the screens. It's a natural process.
Yeah, they go to Best Buy and they try it on a TV screen. It doesn't
right.
work.
Yes. So I think it's the combination of best-of-breed clinical software, the actual Samsung device, fabulous device, easy to use. It's just a natural. It's a natural action. There's very little learning curve with it.
Okay, Eric or Andrew, one of you, I'm not sure who's best for this. One of the questions from the audience is, how many months was the total project? I'm sure some of you remember this very well.
Yeah, I still have the calendar on a whiteboard in my office if you want to see it. It was, we piloted with a 2 small branches, and after we decided to go forward to all of our, the rest of our 68 or so branches, we basically went in about 12 months. So start to finish, we deployed 2,500 devices, we said in about 20-plus states in about a 12-month period, everything from, training to go live, and even a couple intense months of support for every branch. So, yeah, we did it in about 12 months, and I think that T-Mobile really helped, and one of the things that they offered that we felt like was going to create a great partnership was the fact that during this deployment, I met with some of the folks from T-Mobile, and I had this great plan, what we thought was a great plan, but we also knew that to realistically think beyond a month or two we're lying to ourselves. I mean, a lot of things can go wrong. If we got pushback from users, we would slow down. So T-Mobile was willing to meet our flexibility needs. I didn't want to buy 2,000 devices in January just to have them sitting around and not put into use until December. So we kind of created a schedule, and like the video said, we were able to hit every go-live date. But there's definitely a lot of bumps in the road to get to get it all done in 12 months, for sure.
Thank you. David, can you talk a bit about this partnership? It's relatively unique that a carrier and a hardware manufacturer will be together with a customer and working kind of holistically. Can you talk about how that came about and what it looks like?
Sure. We've had a long-standing partnership with Samsung for a number of years. We feel that they provide a top-level device. They're one of our favorite OEMs in terms of the quality of product that they put out. And they understand how flexible we need to be as a carrier to provide certain aspects of our services or applications that are conducive to the needs of the customer. At T-Mobile, we're a little bit different than the other carriers in that we don't necessarily have to worry about any landline business or legacy business. We are focused completely on mobility. So we have some unique characteristics as a company. And then when you look at how we support and serve the needs of customers within that segment, we don't have to balance out the needs of other types of revenues. So totally focused on mobility. Samsung came to us over the last several years with the Galaxy product lineup. This happens to be a Galaxy deployment that we had here, the Galaxy 7-inch tablet. We are the largest distributor of Galaxy products in the North America today. So whether that's
so you already knew the product.
Oh yeah, we knew the product and had a lot of flexibility in the way that product was brought into our lineup. So Galaxy tablet, Galaxy smartphones. We've been through Galaxy 1, 2, and 3, and we will continue to be a dominant partner for Samsung.
On that theme, I've got a question from the audience for you. What tools does T-Mobile offer to help manage the devices in the field?
So we have what we call, let me kind of step back a little bit to kind of talk about how we get this product out there to the field. We have an implementation. Maybe we could click a slide to kind of walk through. There's an implementation process that we go through. We call it the no-touch implementation plan. Really, we don't expect our customers to be experts in mobility. We're not experts in treating patients with healthcare needs. So what we do is try to take that completely out of their hands. And we have flexibility in our deployment plans and our implementation teams, and that is having direct resources in all of the major markets across the country that help this deployment process. So that is gathering, when the device first comes in, taking it out of the box, making sure all the stickers are pulled off, making sure that the application is loaded onto the device, making sure that it works, whether Wi-Fi is needed or not, making sure that the Wi-Fi radios are turned on. We asset tag the device, and then we go through a series of trainings with the people when they come in to make sure that the nurses understand how to get their calendar up and running, their email is on the device, everybody's got, whether it's personal email or corporate email, we can take care of the customer's needs depending upon what it is that they're looking for. And then on an ongoing basis, whether it's a repair, a broken device, or a lost device, we have the ability to remotely attack that or remotely kill that device so it's not used or it's not in the wrong hands of the wrong people. And an ongoing process of not only upgrading that device and repairing it and replacing it, but the support that's needed as new applications and iterations of the software become available.
So, David, does Bayada do that, or does T-Mobile do that?
Well, we partner with them to do that.
But who actually
So-
does it?
So in the time, well, when you actually, there's a lot of different elements there, right? So as it relates to the software, they're buying the software, right? We're partnering with them to load it onto the device and then train the people on how to use it.
And what's the Samsung play in all this, Wes?
So what we do with,
Grab the mic.
sorry.
By the way, thank you for all the questions. They're flowing in like crazy. Every time you hear a noise, that's what it is. It's not personal notes.
So working with T-Mobile as a one-to-one partnership, it's been a great experience. We definitely work directly with the end user or the end customer to really sit down and together really dive in and try and understand what the business needs are, make sure that our products are meeting those demands of the customers, trying to help work with T-Mobile and the customer as well to make sure we have the right size device, the right amount of the processor speeds that are going to fulfill their needs, and then also work with the client, whether it's on-site support or if it's some on-site training. Samsung partners with T-Mobile as well to make sure that the no-touch implementation goes smooth from our end any way that we can directly involve ourselves working with T-Mobile.
Well, you love this question then. How does a small company approach Samsung and T-Mobile for a partnership?
Come talk to me. We have a healthcare team that deals directly with the B2B side. For me, I'm the national sales director for healthcare for our B2B division. So whether it's custom medical products or implementation of a home care solution, or whether you have questions about what can we do within the hospital, home care, insurance with healthcare, any questions that you have, we have a team and dedicated resources that are here to help.
And oh,
Sorry.
pardon me.
I was just going to say, in the space, we're not that small, just for the record.
Yeah, for themselves, I think. And the way that T-Mobile is structured here domestically is we have 3 different segments within the B2B space. We do have a small business group that's located in all of the top 50 markets. We also have a mid-market group, and this is a sales organization that handles both business development as well as account management, that handles companies that are between 50 employees and 1,000. And then a company like Bayada, which is over 1,000 employees, gets supported by what we call our enterprise segment. And the enterprise segment is both, again, business development and account management. When you look at that kind of capacity that we support today, we also have another kind of element that kind of sits on top of it, and that is our global account team. We have a large domestic presence here, but we're headquartered. Our parent company is headquartered in Germany. So we do a lot of international business. We work with a lot of international companies and have a global account management team that's also based here in the U.S.
Just out of curiosity, anyone here, how many here, by way of applause, are from outside the U.S.? I have to clap. So, great. Okay, so it's a good introduction. This is the same everywhere, by the way. These are I deal with mobile stuff all over the world, and the same issues. It's really just timing issues. Where a different market is at a different time. It's not doing a different thing. It's just not doing it at the same time. So whatever you're seeing happen in one market, it will be replicated in another market. So if something like this is working here, it will be working somewhere else as well. And it doesn't really matter the country. Eric, can you talk a bit about the beginning of the process of this? Because a lot of these people are looking at, okay, this is all well and good, it's all done, it was 12 months, that's cool, but we haven't done any of that yet. What was it? Tell us about the ugly part at the beginning.
Yeah. What Andrew didn't mention was, a year prior to that rollout, we were in some other pilots, and we have kind of a point-of-care device graveyard, and of all the different trials and tribulations that we've gone through prior. And we were in a room at some point in time with, $3,000 PC tablets trying to upgrade over a weekend of 100 devices. I mean, we didn't know what we didn't know. So when we met with T-Mobile, as David mentioned, we didn't know what we didn't know. So when them coming in with their expertise and understanding how to transform in a mobile environment, handheld devices, tablets, deployments, we didn't really know how to do this at scale. So they kind of sit down, whiteboard it out.
So what stakeholders are at that meeting?
Stakeholders there are the business sponsors, David, myself. We had clinical representation from Ashley and some clinicians. We have IT, our help desk. Our help desk was responsible for some of the asset tagging and deployment and customer support. So kind of all at the table. And T-Mobile was there with a wide variety of options. Everything from what are the devices options, what are the data plans options. There's a variety of choices with data plans, overages, unlimited, all these different types of considerations. Everything to also deployment support, so configuration support, training support, the no-touch hassle, free implementation guides, and along with billing and inventory management, things that you don't really consider, but the IT team really knows that there's a lot of pain there. So all these variety and options are on the table. We're sitting there. We must have had T-Mobile build up 5 different, options several different times, and our values were it has to be cost effective, high value, low cost, and great service. And they were able to work with us, and we got a plan in place that met our needs.
And early in that process, how did you measure risk?
Well, we measured risk in the fact of, we had a couple of failed implementations prior with other partners and other vendors, and we knew the risk of failure.
And where were the failures? Was it device? Was it going out into the field? Was it ROI?
I think all of the above. Ultimately, it has to be the user has to accept it. So user adoption and usability was critical. So we faced that in our first round. So with HomeCare Homebase's Android app, along with Samsung's usability form factor, that got us through that hurdle. So now we have clinician and user adoption. Then there's cost. Prior to that world, you didn't have a third screen that was 7 inches that could fit in your pocket that had the computing power required to do what we needed to do. We were in $3,000 device land, right? Which is completely different economics from a couple $100 tablet. So game changing. That gave us some cost risk and usability risk.
Yeah. Ashley, can you talk about the form factor? Because I know you've dealt a lot with that. What is the big deal about size?
It's, as I mentioned, it's the perceived or not, it's the barrier that's there between the clinician and the patient, and the ease of entry. People are very accepting of you sitting down next to them and kind of scribbling with a pen and paper. But the moment you put a big device in between you and them, it's a barrier. And the client, the patient, objects to that. And clinicians are there to provide care. That's all clinicians want to do. They wish that everyone, payers, regulators, management would get out of the way and let them provide the care. By providing a solution that's essentially a paper replacement, it reduces those barriers to adoption. So
can you describe what it was like before this? Before this electronic implementation?
Paper everywhere. I don't even know how to describe it. There was this process that kind of was reminiscent of shopping carts with manila folders hanging all over them. And depending upon where in the process it was, would depend upon where the shopping cart sat next to the desk. Literally. So paper everywhere, a real lag in information. Eric mentioned that it could be 5 to 7 days. With a highly mobile workforce, and even a physician in a practice probably experiences the same thing. Paper gets lost. So there's a lag time of 4, 5, 7 days, you name it, between information being captured from the client and then utilized to affect change and to impact the outcome. The moment you put a mobile solution in place with the connectivity that T-Mobile gave us across the board, the form factor that on the Samsung device that we deploy, the moment you have that, you literally, that visit is completed, the clinical documentation is captured, and then it's back up into the office. And then it's additionally to that, it's shared with all other clinicians involved in providing care for that client. Complete game changer in terms of process.
And were there any outliers in terms of the clinicians who say, I'm staying with paper, I don't buy this digital stuff, I don't trust it?
There was some turnover, minimal. We're probably talking a handful out of several thousand. And that seems to be the norm. There's an expectation that it'll be okay amongst the younger generation. It kind of goes across the board. The older clinicians that have been around for a while and used to the paper, they adopt to it very well, particularly once we move away from the laptops and the large tablets that have a huge learning curve, just in terms of operability, never mind the actual EMR software. The other, just to follow up on Eric's point earlier too, in terms of success of the rollout, the ability to push out changes and load a solution, again, another game changer in terms of process. We're able to deploy the application and the database remotely within 10 minutes, like across the country. We have
whole
offices,
thing?
The whole thing. We have offices in Hawaii now. So we can make a change. Andrew's team can make a change that's based on clinician recommendation about
And those are done in person, right?
Sorry?
In Hawaii?
Yeah, we have to go out for those. But so the feedback comes in that we need to capture information differently from the clinicians. Andrew's team can respond to that very fast. It doesn't have to go through this paper process where the paper form's approved, then it's printed, and then it's deployed. Literally, Andrew has someone on his team that can make the change, capture the information we need. We can rebuild the application and the database over the air in 10 minutes or less. It's just phenomenal what we can do once you're on this platform. It's amazing.
Right. Wes, can you talk about Samsung? I'm going to follow Samsung. Samsung, by the way, in the mobile industry, Samsung is a very, very big deal because they're sort of the hot company right now. I'm saying this outside of healthcare, just in mobile. Everybody in mobile knows this. They're tracking, it's on a trajectory straight up in terms of global market share in the smartphone marketplace. I'm curious if you can talk a bit about Samsung's R&D effort, how you end up with products like this. Like coincidentally, you have a tablet that fits that marketplace, for example.
So something that not everybody knows about is with Samsung, as much as we're the largest technology company, a lot of people don't know that a lot of our international efforts in research and development, especially around healthcare, that there are business divisions that do healthcare equipment. For example, we work with ultrasound, we work with blood analytics. There's several other divisions within Samsung that aren't as well known here in the U.S. And part of what we do with the B2B healthcare side is to take a look at use cases or subverticals within healthcare, like home care or telehealth or the large hospital or personal wellness. And then we look to what are the right sizes and the right formats to use. So, for example, the 7-inch tablet is a perfect fit for the home care market because you have people that are on the go. They're going out to multiple locations. Again, it reduces that barrier between you and the customer. So the 7-inch form factor is a perfect ideal fit. You can also type with one hand, hold it in one hand, and input the data as you're treating the patient. But then also for, say, the physician's office, maybe the 10.1-inch tablet might be a perfect fit because it replaces essentially the clipboard. So we try to make devices that fit multiple use cases. And if you were to look at our portfolio of tablets and smartphones, I'd say that we definitely have, from a size perspective, one of the most robust portfolios available of any OEM out there. So again, from a global perspective, we are the world's largest handset manufacturer, but at the same time, we customize the size and formats to fit individual use cases.
So it happened. It sounds like it happened that you had a form factor that fit this need. Yeah. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll never forget the day Ashley and I were sitting around when 7-inch tablets became cost effective, and it happened.
You mean cheaper?
Yeah.
Yes, it happened the spring of 2011. We were sitting around and Eric mentioned we had failed with larger devices and smaller ones as well. And we had, our turnover rate was mentioned during the deployment. I think our turnover was worse in our, a couple hundred user pilot because of either the large device that was clunky or the small device that, oh my gosh, my head's spinning after 8 hours of staring at this. Our turnover was higher then with a smaller number of people than it was when we found this 7-inch that wasn't going to break the budget.
Andrew, can you talk also a bit about platform? Because you're obviously on Android platform versus the iOS.
Yeah, so part of that, the main reason is definitely our EMR software company chose to build their software on the Android platform. So they kind of made that decision for us. They were previously on a Windows mobile platform, and they converted to Android. So the platform decision was kind of made for us, and I think from a business standpoint, Android is much easier. I couldn't even imagine deploying, Apple products across the whole, 2,500 people. Just installing that software, I think, would create a hurdle that we didn't have to jump with Android. So,
Why did you do something that was, say, mobile web-based versus what you did?
it's a good question.
I'd say once again it was our EMR partners' decision to build a native Android-based application, and with their skill sets and their development staff, they wanted to go kind of native code versus basic web.
Okay, and Ashley, do clinicians care about this at all?
Actually, to them they don't really kind of differentiate. I mean, they have the information at their disposal. The sync time, so to bring down a new case, actually to bring down 6 new cases, we're talking about 30 to 40 seconds to bring everything down. We're talking about a fully functional EMR here with medications, diagnoses, interactions, so everything's there. For them, there really isn't any kind of perception barrier that it could be anything different, so no.
So early on, when they were experimenting, did they say, oh, this one's too small, I hate it, or this one's too big? I mean, were you getting feedback like that, or were you doing actual surveys, or how did you find out?
Running from the room in tears, kind of.
Literally.
It was kind of the giveaway. Yeah. So I mean, the feedback was on the larger devices, it was heavy. So the ergonomic issue, the barrier that I repetitively mentioned, and then as Andrew said, on the smaller device we originally went with, it was like a 3.2-inch screen. It just if you're 3.2 inches for your occasional email is fine, but when you're putting in 8 hours of consistent documentation, it becomes somewhat of an issue for the clinicians.
Right. David, do you have other healthcare clients? If so, can you talk about what you're doing with them at all?
Yeah, so very similar. We do support a lot of healthcare companies today, whether those are hospitals, clinics, pharma, and design, really not looking at really selling them our products, but back to kind of the differentiation between T-Mobile and other carriers is we kind of come in and instead of selling our product, really understand what their needs are first and designing solutions for those needs. And we've been pretty successful in healthcare. So whether it's a Health South or a United Healthcare, a long list of healthcare customers that today use T-Mobile, maybe not in the same fashion as Bayada does, but we're hoping more and more will adopt that kind of philosophy and mobility strategy. We're offering a lot of voice and data services today to those companies, so a lot of them are taking advantage of the speed of the network. And again, whether that's for a specific application that they want to mobilize, or for just getting email, or for getting intranet access. Lots of different ways that they can utilize a fast 4G network with nationwide coverage.
Right. And Andrew, can you talk a little bit about the process? What was tougher, the questions or the answers?
Yeah, we didn't know what we didn't know for sure. So we thought we were pretty smart, and we thought we knew how to do this, and Eric mentioned our kind of failed experiment. So I think that we got a reality check to realize that, hey, we definitely don't know all the answers. We don't know all the questions to ask, and we kind of used T-Mobile to help figure out what questions to ask and give us answers. We definitely relied on our EMR provider because they had been in this space before. They had customers as large as us. So they had been there before, and we figured it out as we went. And to Eric's point, it didn't happen overnight, and we kind of have the battle scars to prove it. But when we got it right, and we started collectively to get really smart about what questions to ask and how to appropriately answer them all.
Right. Eric, I want to ask you about this. I wonder if you could talk about the specific impacts that mobile had. You know, what was the ROI? What was the percentage in hospital readmission? Those kind of stats. I'm sure you measured all this stuff.
Right. So it might help to just have a basic primer on home health, because it's an interesting reimbursement model that's somewhat progressive and might be something, a harbinger of the future. But Medicare pays us in advance for 60 days of care, and they pay us based on how well and how severe the patient's condition is. So that initial 16-page assessment is critical to determining our reimbursement and the care for the client. So basically, we're managing the risk. They're giving us a flat fee, and we have to manage the risk for 60 days. So it's critical that that assessment is done accurately. We found that our accuracy was about over 10%. We were under-assessing our patients, about under 10% of what the national average was. So that meant that we were leaving almost 10% of revenue on the table from under-assessing. So we picked up a few, putting on my finance hat, we put up a few percentage points of revenue increase through better assessment of our patients' needs. And then, to Ashley's point, having that information the next day, we can actually manage the care of that 60-day episode and manage it cost effectively. On a paper world, it would take us 45 days to process that paper. Our average length of stay is 45 days. So we were managing our business through the rearview mirror. So basically, we were able to pick up gross margin points through better effective management of the care, higher revenue reimbursement through more accurate assessment, and then we've got cost savings from normal operational enhancements. Roughly 20% of our back office efficiencies through not pushing around paper, through shopping carts, as Ashley mentioned, not having to do paper payroll, not having to fax orders to the physician. It would do that automatically through the system. Those types of operational efficiencies, we've probably realized close to 20% in back office efficiencies. And that's just the finance hat. From a quality perspective, I'll let Ashley talk a little bit about our reduction in hospitalization.
So a big,
Just right,
one of the prime quality measures that we have and we've been focusing on for the past couple of years is rehospitalization or hospitalization. So the clients that we take care of, how many end back up in the hospital, which is obviously a huge an impact on the life of that client and a huge cost to the system as a whole. We've actually reduced, since having, as Eric mentioned, not having this rear view mirror approach to it, being able to intervene timely and appropriately based on what we're seeing, the picture that's been painted for us. We've reduced our hospitalization rate, 30-day hospitalization rate, by over 20%. We're currently running at about 12.1% on our 30-day rate, which is, in the industry, it's significant. In addition to the gross margin pickup, we have publicly reported outcomes. So CMS puts out data out on us, and every provider in the industry. We're starting to see our outcomes improve and trend upwards too. So it's not just the ROI in terms of the margin. There's a definite quality ROI here, and it's because it allows collaboration and immediate collaboration and feedback and mentoring to occur.
Okay. They look like they've been quiet, but my phone is exploding with questions. If anyone has an analog question, we have microphones. Just go to the microphone and you can ask from there. Meanwhile, I'll ask some of the questions that have come in. Is the T-Mobile and Samsung solution secure and compliant? I'm guessing yes.
Yes. You want to take compliance?
Sure. Absolutely. I think that we definitely rely heavily on our EMR provider for security, for HIPAA, and patient information is secure through their program, so it's password protected, and they house it for us. It's all safely secure. We also have added security where through our Exchange server we can remote wipe a device. All of our field clinicians have Bayada email accounts that give us the access to remote wipe their device if the need arises. But definitely the client information is safe and secure based off of our EMR's service.
Andrew, while you've got the mic, this is from the audience. How big a concern to Bayada is encrypting both regular and mission-critical messaging, and do you feel your staff members text each other about work issues? How do you protect?
It's a great question.
We specifically don't have voice on these tablets, and so texting is not necessarily an option for them. They could be texting through their phones, but most of their work is done on the tablet, so it's either through the EMR system or through Exchange emails, which are secure and encrypted. So between those two modes of communication, we feel the majority of our compliance and security needs are met. One other thing I'd like to throw in here is that we specifically took I hate to say it, but a little bit more of a laissez-faire approach during the rollout, because we could have locked this thing down sideways, ups and down, and basically not allowed the clinicians to do anything. We actually, as part of our change management approach, we wanted the clinicians to develop a relationship with the device. We wanted them to feel a connection. So with outside of Exchange email and outside of the EMR application, they were able to do anything they want. YouTube, custom apps, put your own screensavers, whatever you wanted. We actually gave it to them a couple weeks in advance for them to take it home and play with their pet rock for a bit to get comfortable with it before we actually trained them. We wanted them to develop emotional connection. We couldn't have done it in a year without giving them a sense of ownership and intimacy with that device. And we're continuing to look for cost-effective solutions to maintain compliance and security, but that was an essential success agent to our rollout.
Just to tag on to that real quick, and Wes could probably talk to it more, but Samsung have the Safe, is it Safe?
Yeah.
Where you can kind of sandbox everything, which is a pretty unique in the industry and in the space at the moment.
Yeah, it's Samsung for Enterprise is our SAFE program, and it combines 4 main pillars of mobile device management, VPN connectivity, Exchange Active Sync features, and then also onboard encryption. So one additional feature from a security perspective is that all our devices now have AES 256-bit encryption as well. So kind of taking those 4 pillars together with our SAFE program, Samsung devices can actually, if you're an IT organization, you can enforce up to 338 current IT policies on the device itself.
Well, yes, David?
I want to add one other thing, too, is there is the ability for the carrier to control this, too, by connecting these devices that you have out in the workforce or out in the field directly into your corporate network through what we call an APN service. So getting a private connection back in from the mobility devices into the corporate network is possible through the carrier. Now, in this case, we didn't do that because they have that control and functionality that's needed. But carriers, specifically T-Mobile, does offer that both to small, medium, and large-size companies today.
Okay, this is a question for Andrew or Eric. Who pays for all the tablets and mobile service, Bayada or Home Care Home Base? That's a big additional monthly cost on top of software cost. And how did Bayada determine its budget spend?
I can start it, Eric, and you can jump in if you want. So Bayada, we pay the hardware and the monthly data costs as a company. Not our EMR does not pay for that. We got to a point where, like I said earlier, we remember when the data plan got to a point where we were thinking it was very cost effective, and the hardware itself. And we don't replace a lot of devices. I think our break rate right now is sub 5%, and there's a lot of concern about that with people's kids using it for Angry Birds and how many devices do you guys go through. I've heard that a lot. It is very low. There is a pride in ownership. So we're not churning through devices. The cost of the device is very low, in my opinion, and the monthly data cost as well. So when we mapped it out, and you have to have an ROI for all this. You have to bake that in to the story, and we felt strongly that in order to overcome the 5 to 10% reimbursement cuts, we had to make this move, and the extra cost of the hardware and monthly data was not going to deter us.
Okay, another audience question. I don't know if this is for Wes or David. How do you distribute the app to the device? Is each device side-loaded, or is the app published to the Play Store?
That'd be probably David.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that I'm the expert in loading software onto devices. However, we sideload those devices. So when we get the device in, whether that's going to one central location or to multiple locations, we'll have a T-Mobile representative at that location to take the app and download it. Now, we do also have customers that put their apps on the App Store, on the Play Store. So T-Mobile's integration and partnership with Google is the longest in the industry. And so we were the first to come out with an Android product, first to come out with an Android smartphone, Android tablet. So we have a relationship with Google that a lot of the other carriers, I think envy in that respect. So if there is a need for even a smaller company to have a little flexibility with Google, it gives us, we have an opportunity to kind of help you get there by our partnership with Google.
Okay, question about, have you had issues with the theft, loss, or damage of the tablets? How do you recover them when employees quit? These are real core issues, though. I'm just like, this is like the meat potato stuff.
Yeah. And Ashley, you can jump in from a clinician standpoint. But yeah, the data is secure, so we can disable their login information immediately from their EMR. So instantly they can't access any clinical information, even with the app. The app is password protected. It's a unique password, and we just disable an account instantly. And also we do the same thing from Exchange. Like I said earlier, we can, the moment that's reported as missing, we can, wipe the device clean so that no more information, email or in the EMR, is available. And we're unique because we're in people's homes and we're in cars all day, and the amount of theft reported and lost devices is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be going in, given our, like I said, given our nature of the business. But we do kind of get word of that immediately. All of our branches know the procedure as soon as a device is missing. Even if they think they might have left it in their sister's car, we tell them to report it, and we will kind of wipe it until if they find it, then we can kind of reload it. So, do you want to add anything? Or is that...
No, I think that captures it.
Okay, I want to just recap. This is a slide we showed early on in terms of the challenges in 2013 and beyond. And I'd like to suggest that this panel, I hope, has dealt with pretty much everything, all the way from implementation through quality assurance. Care providers want choice in a device and reimbursement and so forth. So I'm now going to turn this over to Wes, your two sponsors, Samsung and T-Mobile, to close this out. And I want to thank you for all your time and attention. I hope you got a lot out of this. Reminder that if you go to the T-Mobile Samsung booth, if you're one of the first 25, you can get a complimentary copy of the book that they're providing, not me, so it's their comp. And also they will be available here for more Q&A after. I know there's still a lot of questions that I got on my phone that we can't manage right now.
Yeah.
Wes?
So I know today we talked. Sorry. So I know today we really talked about the successful implementation of Bayada with Samsung and T-Mobile. And we're actually really confident that we can help with any of your challenges as well. Please come talk to us. In fact, we're so confident that we can meet and exceed your expectations that David has a special offer for all of you here today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to all the panelists for your time and effort. And we appreciate the partnership with Bayada, so thank you. And thank you all for coming. We do want to offer something that is unique to this audience as participants in this show, and that is to test drive us. A lot of people aren't familiar with T-Mobile in the business space, and a lot of people want to poke some holes in our network or try to challenge us a little bit, and we accept that challenge. So we're willing to provide you with some free devices and 3 months of free service, coming down to visit us in our booth, or talk to either Wes or myself here today. But let's see what we can do about getting your company or getting the company that you're here supporting up and running on T-Mobile to try out the service and give us a test drive. So thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the show.